Let's have a swatch party. Welcome to Knit Cheek. My name is Natalie and I am the cheek behind Knit Cheek, and today we are doing a swatch party questions and answers video. I have been looking forward to doing this for way too long and it accidentally got pushed back quite a bit. I have been having a very strange beginning of the year where I feel like I just cannot catch up. I have not knit that much this year. I thought that I would be doing more knitting in January than I did. So I have been looking forward to this swatch party for like a month is an exaggeration. The original date I wanted to post this video was January 23rd. I know it's not January 23rd. The year is slipping through my fingers and I'm really hoping that that trend does not keep happening because I would like it to stop. I have been literally dancing and singing all day, excited about my swatch party. I made up this like ridiculous song that I literally sing it to myself every time I think about this swatch party. It is a swatch party, a swatch party. It's a swatch party. Thank you for everybody who submitted a question to me on Instagram and on my Make 9 video. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. I was really scared that if I ever did a question and answers video, I would have no questions, and I definitely have plenty of questions. I organized my questions into 6 different chapters, kind of based on a theme, and then I have 6 projects in my queue that I would like to swatch for today, if time permits. Okay, so let's open up my queue and you can see all the projects that I am planning to swatch for today. The first one is probably going to be the Traveler. This is the one I've been most excited about, and I really wanted to cast this on and knit this as part of Handmade by Gibbs Knit Along Granola Girl Knit Along. Yeah, that's the name of it, but it ends January, February, March 7th. But this is like my #1 thing that I would really like to cast on as soon as possible. So I will probably start with swatching this today. This is Widgeon by Purl Soho. It is 100% fine Falkland Merino. And this was gifted to me by Purl Soho because I am a Purl Soho affiliate. It is a really pretty sap green color. If you've been around for a while, you know I'm really into green, and today is not any different, I'm sorry. So with this Purl Soho Widgeon yarn, I am going to knit the Traveler by Andrea Mowry. Next up, I have a yarn by Kelbourne Wool called Scout, and this is in a really pretty heathered green color. I think it's called Meadow. No, what is it called? Meadow Heather. And I was planning on knitting either the Sophisticable cardigan by Veronica Lindberg or the Pearl Jacket. The Pearl Jacket by Helene Beba. So those are my 2 ideas for knitting this with this Kelbourne Woolens Scout. This was also gifted to me by Kelbourne, and I'm also a Kelbourne affiliate, but I haven't yet made anything with their yarn yet, so I haven't really been like talking too much about it. Next up, I have this beautiful Wandering Flock fluff, and I purchased this at a Woolen Affair Rhinebeck weekend 2025, and I'm going to knit the Cardigan Roma by Mochi Knits. So I accidentally snipped the yarn when I was cutting the label off to wind it today, so I figured I'd swatch from this tiny little guy and then just leave that for when I cast on my project. Next up, I have a skein of fingering weight yarn from Green Mountain Spinnery, and I have 3 skeins of this, and I want to knit the Traveler Shell by Andrea Mowry. And then lastly, I have this DK Alpaca Surrey Fluff base. This yarn is by Adara Fiber Art. She's based in Chico, California. I picked this up at the SoCal Fiber Fair. It's like the only sweaters quantity of yarn. Actually, that's the only thing I bought at the SoCal Fiber Fair because I was still recovering from Rhinebeck, so I didn't buy much. What I plan on knitting with this is Brune by Andrea Mowry. Okay, so the first one I'm going to swatch is Andrea Mowry's The Traveler. I do own this pattern, so I'm able to really, hone in on that stitch pattern that she wants us to swatch in. The gauge I'm trying to get is 21.5 with size 5 needles. I currently have my Chow Goose available in size 5, so we're just gonna try that and see if we can get gauge with that. So today I brought out my 2 needle sets, my pad of paper and pen, and my 2 favorite gauge tools so that I could measure my gauge on these. Is this size 5? This looks bigger than size 5. No, that's size 5. I am so excited to be swatching for new projects right now. So let's start with chapter 1, which is going to be questions mostly about knitting and my process and preferences. Question number 1 is, how do you choose between similar patterns and designers? There are a lot of patterns on Ravelry, and I understand that it can be hard to pick a pattern sometimes. And I honestly feel like one of the biggest factors for like how I pick it is by the samples. So like if a designer has more samples or like more ideas than another project does, I will tend to go for that. Here's a really good example of what I mean by that. I feel like there's a lot of patterns that I like. They'll be written for a DK weight with a fingering weight held with a mohair. And if I can find a similar pattern that is not written that way for like regular DK weight, or like they have more than one sample and they show a difference between like one with a DK weight and one with a fingering mohair, I'm more likely to choose that because I don't usually knit with mohair because I live in Southern California and I really don't need anything that warm. I have also never worked with it, so I'm like, I don't know, I'm on the fence about it. So that's a really big determining factor for me when it comes to picking patterns. And I feel like that's a pretty good one because a lot of patterns these days are written for a fingering weight mohair situation. That's one of them. I do feel like it depends. If I already own a pattern inspired by another pattern and then I realize that I own something similar to that, I feel like I'll go with the one that I own just to, you know, like use the things that I've already purchased. There are a lot of similar designs out there, but that doesn't mean that there's not room for a designer to come out with a similar basic pattern, especially if they're making samples in different yarns so that you can get a better idea of what you want your finished project to look like. I feel like it's fine. I don't feel like there's an oversaturation of like basic sweaters out there. I do feel like there's a lot of them, but I like that there's a lot of options out there. That way you can find like a designer that you like and you can go through their patterns and maybe they have a basic raglan and you're like, oh, I'm gonna knit this one because I really like this designer and I know I like the way this designer writes. So that's my thoughts on that. What are your favorite yarn brands and bases? I don't know if I really have a favorite. Like, I was thinking about this question when I received it and I was trying to think, really the only yarn that I feel like I can't shut up about is the Purl Soho Plein Air. Cannot wait to make another project with it. I really want to make the matcha pullover in their pear color, which is like a chartreuse. Why can't I say that? A chartreuse. I'm not saying that right, but it's a really pretty green color. I have an idea of knitting the matcha sweater with that green color yarn. So as of right now, I'm just really enjoying trying new yarns like every time that I want to knit a new project. So I really haven't like had a loyalty to anything so far. Question number 3, what is your ultimate dream knit or like white whale pattern? What a good question. You know, I feel like it would be, before it was probably like a cabled cardigan and I knit the book club cardigan. I always said that I wouldn't knit another one because I was like, why would I knit another one? But I've actually thought about that I would love a bigger one, like a more oversized one. But I've already done that, so that's not really like my dream pattern anymore. It was though. And I have conquered it. So I have to figure out a new dream, right? I think I would really love to knit a sweater that I could wear throughout the summer in the hotter months. And I've had the idea for a long time and I've played around with self-drafting something because I haven't seen much on Ravelry. And what I'm thinking is to knit a really open gauged cardigan with a thin cotton yarn, because I have a store-bought sweater that I wear constantly in the summer as like a comfort cardi. Like, I do not need to be wearing a sweater in the summer, but I like to throw something on to finish an outfit, to feel more confident. For that to work, it needs to be something lightweight like cotton, and it needs to be a really open gauge. So I have this cardigan that I wear in the summer and it works. It's really open. It really doesn't make me hot. And so I would love to knit something similar to that because of course, like I have to make something. Also, the cardigan is really, really old. That is probably my biggest dream of like my white whale pattern. It would to be to create that summer comfort cardigan from cotton. or like some other lightweight, I don't know, maybe silk. Question number 4, what project made you feel like you weren't a beginner anymore? Pattern that made me feel like I was no longer a beginner or like next level was the book club cardigan. It is a all over cabled cardigan. It's very impressive. It also had, I think it was my first double knit button band. I might be wrong, but I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was. And that also made me feel like I had gone to the next level because a double knit button band looks so finished and store-bought to me. And I was like, this is a game changer. Like, this makes my knits look so elevated. Question 5, what are your knitting pet peeves? Probably managing yarn, like if you're doing color work or multiple colors. I don't love managing yarn. I'm very, very happy knitting when I have one ball of yarn. Not to say that I wouldn't knit something, but I'm knitting a project right now where I'm managing 3 balls of yarn. And so maybe that's why I feel like that's my knitting pet peeve right now, because I am just like driving myself crazy tangling up the 3 balls of yarn. Other pet peeves are when my cables get untwisted, which is why I always use the little rubber red heart to tighten my needles. Question number 6, how do you pick yarn patterns for warm climates? I get this question a lot actually because I live in Southern California, and I think people think that like knitting and Southern California don't really go together because it is warm in Southern California. I live in the Inland Empire, which is I live next to the San Bernardino Mountains, so the temperatures are more extreme than if you were to live on the coast. The coast is very temperate. It does get cold where I live. It doesn't get that cold. It has snowed in the town that I live in twice. Oops, I'm supposed to be purling. Mr. Cheek and I spend a lot of time in the mountains. I work in the mountains. I love the mountains. The mountains are somewhere I love to be. So I do feel like I get a lot of wear out of knitwear, even though it's not necessarily cold where I live. I also really love summer knitting, and I know that not every knitter likes to knit summer garments because plant-based fibers can be hard on the hands. I have found the formula that works for me is fingering weight summer garments. And so I am happy doing that. And that is like really the biggest thing, is that I love summer knitting. So as soon as it starts to get too warm, I'll want to shift to summer knitting. And I've decided that my summer stash is not the same as my regular stash. So I have a whole stash of yarn, of summer yarns, that I'm going to be really excited to start knitting with this summer. So that's really the biggest thing, is that I love summer knitting, so I'm not really like deterred by the fact that I live in Southern California. Question number 7, do you frog your swatches? I do not usually frog my swatches unless I am playing yarn chicken. I usually keep them, and I will show you the bin that I brought to show you. Here is my bin of swatches. I like to keep my swatches. I like to reference them. I like to keep my swatches. I like to reference them if I ever did want to knit with a yarn that I've knit with before. I don't undo them unless I'm playing yarn chicken, and I just keep them in this bin, and this bin is getting full, but I can just squish it. So we're just gonna keep doing that. Question number 8 is, how do I organize my patterns digitally? And you know, I'm excited to answer this because I love to talk about organization. I organize my patterns that I own 2 ways. So I organize my patterns in a file on my computer called knitting patterns, and I put those in my documents, and I put all of the patterns that I own and that I've downloaded in there. But I like to also keep a file on my desktop called works in progress, and I will keep all of the patterns that I'm currently knitting in that file. And because I share my desktop digitally on the iCloud, I'm able to access it on my phones with the file app. And so I can go into the file app and look at my works in progress file and easily access any of my patterns that I have there. Another thing I've recently figured out is that you can make a widget for your files app. And so I created a widget, and it shortcutted to the works in progress file. And so I can actually see the little works in progress pattern like icons in the widget. And I really like that. So that's how I organize my patterns digitally. Question number 9 is oldest WIP, and how do you stop casting on new projects? Currently I'm knitting the artist shawl, which I think I cast on last August. I'm actually really close to finishing it though. So that is my longest standing WIP. As far as keeping myself from casting things on, I actually don't get castanitis that often. I do get castanitis here and there, and I feel like I am very seasonal. So I'll get a wave of castanitis and I will run with it. And then I'll get an urge to finish all of my WIPs. So last year I got a wave of castanitis in August, cast on all the things. And then towards the end of the year, I was like, I want to finish all my WIPs. And I have a video trying to finish all my WIPs by the end of the year. And I was trying to finish all my WIPs. Since then, like I said, January in my life has just been kind of out of control. I haven't really been knitting too much, but I'm really looking forward to potentially a season of castanitis with the things that I'm swatching for today. But I do get waves of castanitis, and I don't view it as like a negative thing though. I usually will just roll with it because I know that I'm going to get the urge to like wipe the slate clean eventually, and then kind of just go through that process over and over again, hopefully, and never end up with like too many projects or unfinished projects. That concludes chapter 1, which was all the questions about my knitting process and preferences. I'm going to try to quickly finish the swatch and then we'll move on to chapter 2, and I'll catch up with y'all in a second. Okay, I am going to put my Traveler's hoodie swatch on hold just because this fabric is taking so long to grow, and I want to make sure that I make a big enough swatch, and it's sport weight yarn, so it's taking quite a while. So I'm gonna put that aside and let's move on to the next swatch. I think I'm gonna do the Mochi cardigan because I own this already. The Mochi cardigan is a slipped stitch cardigan, so it's an all over slip stitch pattern, and I honestly thought it was half fisherman's rib. So I'm pleasantly surprised because I feel like this is actually going to take a lot less time than I thought it would. So for my second swatch, let's move on to my chapter 2 questions, which are all about sewing and quilting. In one of my recent videos where I invited my mom to come have a chat with me on the channel, I talked about how her and I were really into quilting like 10 years ago. She had the idea that she wanted to learn how to quilt so she could quilt when she retired. And I was like, why would you not just do it now if it's something that you want to do? So I bought us a class at our local fabric store. At the time we lived in a different city, and it was like a step-by-step class of teaching us how to make a quilt. And it was great. And we both immediately loved it. And we continued to quilt for years, and we quilted together, which I don't think I went into when I had her on the channel for some reason, but we quilted together. Like we made quilts together. I would cut them, she would sew them. We would work on them together with both of our sewing machines. It was really, really fun to do that with my mom. And I really miss it actually. We just don't, life changes, and I do believe that life comes in seasons, and I'm very much in my knitting season, but I do have a couple ideas of quilts that I do want to make. And I think once I figure out my crafting space, it's something that I definitely want to get back into is quilting. So I did have a couple of questions about sewing and quilting from viewers. So let's get to them. Question number 1, are you planning more garment sewing, and can you recommend some sewing designers? I am planning to sew some garments this year. I actually have 3 patterns already printed, and I've ordered the fabric for 3 patterns. I am planning to make the Estuary skirt by Sew Liberated, the Songbird skirt by Sew Liberated, and the Nina pants. I'm not sure who the designer is for that one. And I ordered fabric from Matchy Matchy Fabric Co. So I am ready to go, and I'm planning on making a little sewing blog of my first 3 garments. So if you're interested, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. All 3 patterns are marketed as relatively beginner friendly, so I'm hoping that that holds up. And can I recommend sewing designers? I don't really know of a lot of them. I actually have been looking for a ton of inspiration lately to get me into the sewing space. And one of the things I did was literally just start looking at sewing patterns on Instagram. And then Instagram was like, oh, you like this. And it was showing me more and more sewing pattern designers. And so I have been bookmarking a ton of sewing patterns and a ton of sewing pattern stores in my web browser. And so I feel like I have so much inspiration and plenty of sewing garments choice for like me to buy more eventually. But yeah, as of right now, I haven't made too many garments, so I don't know of very many sewing patterns to recommend. Next question is, what should someone know before getting into quilting? Like knitting, it's addicting and expensive, and you will, yeah, you'll want to buy all the fabric. Other than that, I feel like you need to know, you need an iron or like a steamer. There's a lot of pressing in quilting. There's so much more pressing than I thought there was going to be in quilting. And there's a lot of cutting. So if you're already making garments and you don't like pressing or cutting, you may not like quilting. I really, really do enjoy quilting. I like the steps. Like I like one day I would cut pieces, 1 or 2 days, and then the next days I would start making my blocks. So I like the process of sewing quilts a lot. One of the things that I really liked about sewing quilts is that it's really fun to do with another person. I don't know of anyone else who does that besides my mom and me, but it can very much be a 2-person job. Whereas like, unless you're knitting a sweater in pieces, you really can't knit a sweater with someone. You can knit the same sweater with someone, but say you want to knit like a sweater for a family member, it's not really something that's easy to split up between people. But my mom and I were able to split up multiple very large quilts that we made for like family members. And that made the task so much more manageable, because like making a queen size quilt is intense. And we made multiple queen size quilts for people, and having a partner to do that with makes it so much more enjoyable. So I feel like if you're gonna get into quilting, you should know that you're gonna need an iron. You should know that you're gonna do a lot of cutting and a lot of pressing. Precision is very important, like your seam allowances. I don't know if it's more so than garment knitting or garment sewing. That's gonna be a problem. You know, you have to make sure you're cutting precisely and sewing those seams precisely, because if you're off by a little bit, your whole block is going to have to make up for it. And that can be frustrating. If you're just patient, it can be something that's enjoyable. So those are the things that I think that you should know before you start sewing and quilting. And this is how far I've made it on my mochi cardigan swatch. It's not very big. So we have done chapters 1 and 2, and I fear that we are losing the daylight to the point of where I'm gonna have to postpone the rest of this video until tomorrow, which I knew was a possibility because I started filming this later in the afternoon because that's when the lighting is the best. So I'm going to finish this video tomorrow, but I will finish these 2 swatches tonight, and then I will update you tomorrow on my progress, where I'm at, and then we can finish the rest of the swatches and the rest of the questions tomorrow. We're back. It's day 2 of Swatch Party. We are keeping the party going. I've already started a swatch because I realized last night that I wildly underestimated how long it takes me to swatch. So I did finish both of the swatches last night. I finished my traveler hoodie swatch, and this thing took forever. As you can see, if you pull it out, it like grows quite a bit. So I wanted to make a big enough swatch so if I weighed it down, I would get an idea for how much it will grow. So that's done. I also finished my Roma cardigan swatch, and I didn't cut the yarn off because I did talk about how I don't usually frog my swatches, but after I cast this on, I realized, why did I not just knit the pocket as my swatch? And I went to look for the pocket instructions, and I am 1 stitch off from the pocket, and I did something weird with my extra stitch, and I just feel like it would be really hard to hide it. So I think I was a little bit more conservative with my purchase with this yarn. I did not buy a lot of extra. So I may end up pulling this out after I block it and make sure that I have the correct gauge. So those 2 swatches are done. I am now swatching for Veronica Lindbergh's Kudavakika Sophisticable Cardigan. And I already started it so that I can kind of get an idea for what it's gonna look like and just already learn the pattern before I started filming. So we're gonna go ahead and finish this swatch while we move on to my next set of questions. Also, I did not mention yesterday that I am wearing my Sookie cardigan. This is a pattern by Woozy, Woozy by Celine, here on YouTube, Instagram, and Ravelry. I test knit this for her last year. It was my first ever test knit, and I knit it in Lion Brand's Fisherman's Wool. I really like this. It kind of fits like a bomber jacket. It's real cropped. It's real like, I don't know, there's just something about it that I really like wearing, and it's really hardy, and I don't feel like precious with this because I knit it with very inexpensive yarn, and I really like having a cardigan like that I can throw on whenever and not have to feel like I knit it with really precious yarn. And I will wear this when I go to work. I will wear this when we're working if I'm cold. So I really love this cardigan. Okay, so I am starting my third swatch here, or I'm like still working on it, and let's get into some questions. Chapter 3 questions are about my experience in interior design, what I do for a living, and what I mean when I say that I am renovating a house. Question number 1 is probably my most asked question, is what do you do for work and what's your background in interior design? Because I did mention that I have a background in interior design, so I feel like that's what prompted that question. But right now what I'm doing for work is a couple of things. I don't have a full-time job. I have multiple part-time jobs, and it's kind of feels like a lot sometimes, but I am currently working for an Airbnb that is family owned, and I manage and clean that. And that's something I do usually about once a week. Is I go up into the mountains and I will clean a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2 living room, game room, and a kitchen size Airbnb. It usually takes me 2 days to do it, but Joey actually, Mr. Cheek actually goes with me a lot of the times, and we'll do it together, and it takes us only a day if we do it that way. But I also do other things for the cabin, like communications and whatever really needs to be done. I do that as well. So that's one of the jobs that I have. I do have another job that I do during the day that I have chosen to not disclose on YouTube, just for like internet safety and like identity safety. All you have to know is that I do not like this job. It's just a job. It's just a way for me to make extra cash, and when I need it, it's kind of like a gig job, so I don't have to do it all the time, but it pays well. If I could get rid of one job, it would definitely be that one. For right now, unfortunately, I do have to still work a little bit here and there to just make extra cash. So that is my second job. My third job that I consider a job is my YouTube channel. I do try to do about 3 videos a month, and it does take me a while to put together a video and edit it. And so if I'm going to be doing that, it'll usually take me the majority of 2 days to put a video together, like with the filming and the editing and everything that goes into it, not counting like the knitting that I actually do to show what I've been knitting. So that's what I consider my third job. Lastly, Mr. Cheek and I are renovating a house in the same town that we live in, and we bought this house a few years ago. It had 2 houses on the property, and we renovated the first one. It's a beautiful craftsman style house, and we renovated it really nicely to like match the original character, and we are currently renting it. And then we have another much smaller house, but for some reason has been way more work because it just wasn't anywhere near as nice as the front house was. So that is what we are currently working on. I have shared snippets of that here on the channel and on Instagram. So if you've seen me do like any heavily like renovation, like I posted some stuff about us tiling, that's always over at that small house that we've been working on. Mr. Cheek and I have been investing in real estate since we were really young, and we have always both been really into houses. Like we love houses, we love old houses, we love fixing houses. So we've done a couple renovations before, and we do make some of our income from rental properties. So that answers the question of what I do for work. Hopefully. It's very chaotic. It's very like every week looks different, and it can be kind of hard to like build habits or like have a schedule when you kind of have a lot of moving pieces go around, but it also is very flexible, and I'm able to kind of do things when I want to do them. So there's pros and cons to it for sure. As far far as my background in interior design, I have always loved interior design. Ever since I was in high school, I actually used to say that that's what I wanted to do. I never really actually did anything with it though until I lost my job during COVID-19. I used to manage a restaurant and I was laid off during the pandemic. And at the time I was working at a restaurant and I was working for an event space, like a wedding venue. And both of those things were very unclear of where they were moving forward with the pandemic. So I decided to change lanes and I got a job staging houses. And so I staged houses for a few years. And that is where you go into a house, you fill it with furniture so that the sellers have a better chance of selling it because it is staged. That is a little bit different from interior design. You're not actually really concerned about what's livable. It's all about the show of it and what would make it look best. So we're not really necessarily thinking about oh, somebody would probably want a TV in this room. If the TV doesn't look good in the room, we don't put the TV in the room. And that was really, really fun. I really, really loved doing that and I really enjoyed that job. Mr. Cheek and I also had our own Airbnb a couple of years ago, but we didn't actually like doing it, so we changed courses. But the Airbnb that we had, I designed and furnished, and then I also helped design and furnish the Airbnb that I'm currently managing. So I do have a bit of experience of furnishing Airbnbs as well. So I hope that answers my question of what I do for work and what is my background in interior design, which so many of you asked. So thank you for asking that. My second question is, how do you balance YouTube with your job? And that's a great question because it is, like I said, my life is very flexible, but it can be kind of chaotic. I actually usually film later in the day because of the way this room is situated that I film in. The light comes through the window in the late afternoon. I'm actually filming much earlier than I normally do just because I feel like this is going to take a while with the swatching and I ran out of time last night. But I usually start to film around 3 p.m. During the winter I was filming a little bit earlier because the sun was setting a little bit earlier, but around 3 p.m. is kind of the sweet spot to where I know that the lighting is going to be good. So that gives me still the capability to, during the day, I can work and do other things. Although sometimes I do like to just take the day off and I'll work on other YouTube related things during the day before I film. And then I'll take a day or two to edit it. And it's usually if I do it in a day, it'll be all day. And if I do it in 2 days, I can break it up and then I can still work a shift at the job that I do and still have enough time to edit it over the course of 2 or 3 days. But if I do it in one day, that's all I do is edit a video. And I still feel like it's hard to get done in one day. This is how my swatch is looking so far. So lastly, a lot of you were interested in the renovation work that I do, which I already talked about when I was talking about all of my jobs. But there was questions what kind of renovation work do you do? Is it for work or is it a side gig? Any tips on kitchen renovations? Tell us more about your renovation business. Interior design tips and easy decorating hacks. What kind of renovation work do I do? Mr. Cheek and I actually do a lot of the work ourselves. He's really extraordinarily handy, and I have a little bit of experience with design. So I usually do all of the designing of our renovations. As far as if it's work or a side gig, it definitely feels like a full-time job for Mr. Cheek for sure. He does have a job as well, but that is what he does every day after work. And I help him when I can. I would say that it's a real job, not just a side gig, but it's definitely where we definitely rely on that income. So any kitchen renovation tips? So the last kitchen we did, instead of doing customs, we did store-bought prefab cabinets, but it was a really interesting kitchen shape. And so we went to a guy who was able to use uppers as lowers. We were able to kind of make it look bigger than it actually is. I'll have to show you some photos, but it's an extremely small kitchen. And I actually took some space from the bedroom closet to make it work, to make it a little bit bigger and to give it enough space that you can actually walk into it. I guess to just try to be creative when it comes to space is a big one when it comes to kitchen renovations. We usually have somebody build us cabinets or we buy cabinets, we do all the install, and then we usually have have somebody install granite countertops just because of the tools for that. It's something that we don't have. If you try to buy your own granite and cut it, you can mess up really bad and then break your granite. But as far as everything else, do not buy faucets from Amazon. Just don't do that. But it's really hard to find quality faucets. Make sure you're buying from a reputable brand. For our kitchen, I actually would love to renovate our kitchen. We have an old kitchen here in our house, and because we do renovations on other houses, like we really haven't had the time or the money to do our own kitchen. But I am daydreaming of the day that I knock down some walls and make a much bigger kitchen. Even though our kitchen's really cute because it's original, it's just the layout of it's really unusable. So if you watched my Make 9 video, you already know that I am planning to do kind of an overhaul of the layout of my house currently. So I'm going to be redecorating all the bedrooms in my house, and I do plan on documenting that here on YouTube as kind of a series of making my house more craft worthy. So if you're interested in interior design stuff, then I would highly recommend that you're subscribed and that you watch out for those videos that will come out hopefully later this year. Okay, those are all my questions about work, life balance, all the things. Okay, I'm gonna switch needles for the swatch and finish it, and then we will move on to chapter 4, which is all about pets. I'm back and I have finished my sophisticable swatch. So I have 3 swatches now. They're all green. They're all green. Okay, so swatch number 4, I've already gotten a little bit of a start here, and this is my swatch for the Broom sweater. Broom, B-R-U-M, Broom sweater by Andrea Mowry. And this is a yarn that I picked up from the SoCal Fiber Fair. It's a DK fluff, and my mom bought the same exact yarn, and we were gonna make the same exact pattern. So now that I'm on my 4th swatch, we can go ahead and go over chapter 4 questions, which are all about pets. First up, how many cats do I have? What are their names and ages? I have 2 cats, and I will actually probably grab them so that you can meet them. But I have baby Kitty. Little baby Kitty is actually her full name, and she is going to be 17 this year. And I did find her as a tiny kitten. So I've had this cat for 17 years, and she's an all black cat with like a little bit of a white poof on her chest. And she has always been really small, which is why I named her Little Baby Kitty. Even when she was a kitten, I think she may have been like a runt because she was so small I could fit her in my hand when I found her. One hand. She is still relatively small today. I'm gonna grab her, she's right here. This is Little Baby Kitty. Hi. She is a very sweet and loyal cat, and she's used to be really scared of other people, but she's gotten a lot better. But she's not as friendly as Peaches when it comes to strangers, but she is a very loving, sweet cat with me and Mr. Cheek. I am definitely the spare human in this house when it comes to our pets. They all prefer him to me, especially baby Kitty. I don't know if I've ever seen a love like baby Kitty and Mr. Cheek. They love each other. She sleeps with us every night, and yeah, she's really old, but she really isn't aging. She isn't showing age like my dog is, unfortunately. Sometimes she sings. So if she catches a toy, like she's hunting, and she finds something, she will sing the song of her people, and she gets really excited, and she can be really loud. And I think a couple of times it's been in the background of my video of just her bellowing her little song that she sings when she's made a catch. You see her little white poof here? I'm gonna go put her back in the window, and I'm gonna go get our next guest, okay? I love you. This is Peaches, and I know that a lot of you already know who she is because she does frequently make appearances on my channel. She is much more needy than baby Kitty. She is very vocal and she demands attention a lot, whereas baby Kitty doesn't really do that. She'll come from time to time to say hi, but she's not as aggressive as Peaches is. Peaches is going to be 10 years old this summer. So she used to be my baby, but she's aging. She is a lot heavier than baby Kitty. Like she probably weighs twice as much, and she's really dense. She does have a what is it called? The little flap on her belly. She has one of those little flaps. Mr. Cheek likes to call Baby Kitty a panther and Peaches a tiger in their like mannerisms. The way that she walks, she is incredibly heavy. Like you can hear her dunk, 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 dunk around the house. Not as graceful as Baby Kitty. She does have a really great personality and she is extremely friendly when I have people over. Like if you come over to my house, she will sit on your lap, she will meow at you, and she will demand attention and pets. She also really likes to be patted. And she's very, very vocal. She's also shedding everywhere. So this is my Peaches. I'm a little biased. Peaches is definitely the love of my life when it comes to cats. I really, really enjoy her and her personality. And I feel like a lot of people who come over really enjoy her personality too. She has left. So those are my two cats, Peaches and Baby Kitty. Baby Kitty, like I said, is 17 and Peaches is 10 years old. And I've had both of them their whole lives. We did actually find Peaches in Rockford, Illinois, which is where my family's from. And I was visiting them one year, 10 years ago. And we got there really late at night and we didn't want to wake up my grandparents. So we pitched a tent in their yard. And that night that we pitched a tent in their yard is the night that we found Peaches. She came up to our tent and said, "Let me in." And we did. And everyone loved her. And the name Peaches comes from the Rockford Peaches to represent where she came from. So I decided that I could not leave her because I just had this connection with her. Not a tiny kitten, but she was definitely an adolescent. Yeah, so we decided to drive 2,000 miles home from Illinois to California with a dog and a cat in our Toyota Corolla. But it's definitely one of the best decisions I made in my life because Peaches is very special to me and she always will be. So I'm really, really glad that I stuck my foot down and I said to Mr. Cheek, "We're taking this cat home with us. I'm sorry, we're taking her home." And he let me do it. So that is the story of how we found Peaches. Do you hear that? She's singing. I know it sounds like she's dying, but that's just the song that she sings when she's really happy. All right, I think she's done, but it's really, really cute, except for when she does it in the middle of the night. Okay, lastly, I also have a dog who doesn't make a lot of appearances on the channel. Number one, because she's old and she sleeps a lot. Number two, because she's a dog and she can't like jump up on me, but she does sometimes walk around and you can hear her little clip clapping. Her name is Mikey, and Mikey is 17 years old. And she is some type of mutt. We've never had her tested. She was a dumpster dog. So Mr. Cheek and I found her and her brothers and sisters in a dumpster. I mean, if it was 17 years ago, how old was I? I'm 36. I think I was like 19. We were like, okay, we'll take one because, you know, we're 19. We don't really think about anything. We've never really thought that I would own her until I was 36 years old. She did not age until maybe 2 years ago. So for the first 15 years of her life, she was incredibly energetic and was able to hike with us long term. And it's only been in the last couple of years that she's really started to age. And she is losing her back legs, the capability of walking, unfortunately. She's still able to walk. We do take her on a walk every day. She is still doing relatively well. I was going to show you her, but she's sleeping and I kind of feel bad waking her up and getting her up. So I will just insert some photos because she is snoozing. And yeah, so those are my three pets. I have little baby kitty, Mikey, and Peaches in the order of when we got them. All right, I am back with a finished broom swatch. I ended up doing the original needle size that Andrea Mowry recommended, and then halfway through I was like, this is looking a little loose, so I went down a needle size, and I'm really glad I did because I think that is going to be the right gauge after blocking. So I finished that. Here is my broom swatch, and I have now 4 finished swatches, and I'm getting a little bit tired, but I did start my 5th swatch, which is my Traveler's Shell, and this is gonna take me a while. Like the Traveler hoodie, it's a swatch that gets small. Oh my God, I'm looking at this being like, I have so long. I remember this taking me a really long time. Like last night, this took forever. And I'm knitting this one on even smaller needles, but I'm gonna power through here. I did cast on a few rows so I'd have a little bit of a head start, and now I'm going to work on this swatch. This is fingering weight yarn that I picked up from Rhinebeck at the official New York Sheep and Wool grounds, and it is from Green Mountain Spinnery. I really, really like this company, and I would love to knit more with them in the future. Chapter 5, Home and Lifestyle. Are you a hardcore hiker or like a picnic hiker? This is a great question. So Mr. Cheek is a hardcore hiker. He has done Mount Whitney with my brother. They've both done Cactus to Clouds. I'm trying to remember if that's the real name. It's the San Jacinto Peak. He's done San Gorgonio Peak multiple times, and he loves the mountains, which is like one of the reasons why I don't know if we would ever leave the area we're in, is because he loves the mountains. I love the mountains too, but this man loves the mountains and he loves to hike. And I like to hike, but I like like a 4-hour hike. I don't like a 12-hour hike. Although I did actually hike Whitney with him and my brother the first time, but we did not make it to the peak. We only made it to the ridge, and that was over 10 years ago. And I don't know if my body could handle it anymore. And I'm not being dramatic. I really don't know if I could handle it like I used to. We recently, the three of us, my brother, Mr. Cheek, and I did a small hike, a 5-mile hike to the hot springs in Lake Arrowhead. And I was fine until like the last mile, and I was like dying, but we made it and I was fine, whatever. But I kid you not, I was so sore for 2 days of like really serious pain. Like I felt like crying that night. Like that's how bad my joints and my bones hurt. So I don't know if I need to like take some collagen or like some type of supplements, or if I just need to ease my way into it more next time. But I was hurting. My next question is, what do you like to collect when you travel? This question was asked by one of my favorite viewers who is always leaving me comments. So thank you so much. I feel like I've thought about this question for a while, and I'm going to say the most cheesiest thing I could ever possibly say, and that is memories. And I'm sorry that is so lame, but I was like thinking about it, and I was like, I really don't, like, I don't buy magnets or little trinkets or anything when I'm abroad. I've never really thought about that, and I would love to maybe think of something. I don't know. Also, if you've been around for a while, then you're a real one, number one. But the way that Mr. Cheek and I like to travel is that we go places for a long time. So like when we went to Italy, we were there for 2 months, and we recently took a road trip to New York for Rhinebeck, and we were gone for a month. So we like to travel that way, and we're able to because of the flexibility of our jobs. But it can be hard to like think about picking up trinkets or souvenirs, because you're gone for so long and you would have to like come home with that. So I'm sorry if that answer was really lame, but question number 4 is favorite books. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to go off the top of my head, and then I'll probably check my Goodreads to double check to make sure I'm not missing anything, because I'm very much like in the moment, like whatever I'm reading right now will be what's freshest in my mind. Favorite books. So I read quite a bit. I do a lot of audiobooks. Overall, I really, really enjoy science fiction. Is probably my favorite genre. And in that genre, the author who wrote Dark Matter, Recursion, and Upgrade. I really like this author, my favorite being Dark Matter of the 3, but Recursion is also really good. Another book that I really love that's science fiction is Project Hail Mary. If you have not read that book, I would especially recommend the audiobook version of that. And if you have read it, you would know why. Also, if you want to follow me on Goodreads, I am Book Cheek, just like Knit Cheek, but Book Cheek. Okay, I also love a category of books that my book club friends and I have deemed weird girl books. And an example of that is Sweet Bitter by Stephanie Danler. Big Swiss. I absolutely loved the book Big Swiss. Big Swiss by Jen Began. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. Oh, My Sister, the Serial Killer. Oh, Nothing to See Here had a really strong, like, weird girl character in that. I absolutely love that book. I would love to reread that book. Back to science fiction. One of my favorite science fiction books I ever read was How High We Go in the Dark. I gave that 5 stars. It's by Sequoia Nagamatasu. Wow, don't ever ask me to pronounce things for you. other books, I mean, I've read a lot of great books. The People We Keep is a really great book by Allison Larkin. But if I'm talking like books that I love, that are my favorite, that I would reread over and over and over again, I really loved The Bookish Life of Nina Hill. That was a really fun book that I feel like was not very heavy and an easy read that I think I've read that book 3 different times. So I just really loved reading it and it was really enjoyable. It's like putting on like a good movie that you've seen. It's not super deep. It's not super emotional or anything. It's just a book that's fun and easy to read. Yeah, I hope I answered that question. Also Big Swiss. I can't say enough good things about that book. I absolutely love that book. But there's so many. I mean, there's just so many. If you really want to check out my Goodreads, I've read a lot of books, so you can go through that and see some of the books that I've given 5 stars as well, and we can be friends. Okay, I am going to finish the swatch off camera, and then we're going to do a fun quickfire section with my last swatch. Getting a little tired, but that's okay. We're gonna push through because this party is not over. I physically cannot do another swatch. I am starting to feel like really sore. It's like 4:30 and I started this project at like noon. So I'm going to try to finish this one that I'm working on, the Traveler Shell. Continuing on, but I've been knitting this for like an hour and it's still not even close. So here is my fun quickfire section of questions. And the first one is, why knit cheek? And I'm actually surprised that more people didn't ask me this. I get this question a lot IRL. And knit cheek is a form of my original Instagram handle, which is book cheek, because when I was younger, I had an Instagram handle that was Donnie BRB from my high school dog, Donnie, who passed away. And when she passed away, I wanted to change my Instagram handle. And I came up with book cheek because I read a lot and I have big cheeks, and that kind of developed into more cheeks. So I started a home cheek Instagram for interior design, and I started a skate cheek Instagram for my roller skating. And then the final iteration ended up being what really stuck, and that's knit cheek, which is my main Instagram account. Now I really don't use any other account, and that is where the name knit cheek came from. Yeah, it's just because I have big cheeks. Next question is my favorite coffee drink, and my favorite coffee drink is definitely a vanilla latte with regular milk, and I really love a latte for here. I love getting coffee in a mug and drinking it at a local cafe or bringing in my own ceramic mug to go. I really don't love using disposable cups. But I'm also a really big green tea drinker lately because I do drink decaf coffee just to help manage anxiety. I have lately been really switching over to green tea at home. So I really only have coffee if I'm going out to a cafe. I'll get a latte. Favorite food, Peruvian food, hands down. Peruvian food's the best food. I am biased, but it's the best food. My favorite dishes when it comes to Peruvian food is my family's version of ají de gallina, which is a shredded chicken, walnut, ají pepper, which is like a Peruvian yellow pepper dish. And it's like a paste that you like shred chicken in blended walnuts with this fried pepper paste, and it turns out like this really bright yellow chicken. Traditional Peruvian food, like a lot of it, is served with a hard-boiled egg and some kalamala olives, and that's probably my favorite one. I also really love causa, which is a Peruvian potato dish. Papa la huancaína, which is another potato dish. A lot of potatoes. I do also really love a Philadelphia roll from the sushi bar. Next question. Do you speak Spanish? No, I don't speak Spanish. I don't know why. You'd have to ask my mom why I don't speak Spanish. I think when I was real young, I was speaking Spanish and English, and my dad was afraid that I would end up with an accent, and so he wanted me to learn English first, and then I just never learned Spanish. I do not speak Spanish, though it is one of the goals of my life to be able to speak Spanish. I love the Romance languages, and I've studied French, Spanish, and Italian, but I do think my best bet would be Spanish, just because I could practice with my mom. So it is one of my like lifetime goals, is to become fluent in Spanish. I understand a lot of Spanish and I can say some things, but it's nowhere near where I would like to be. So goal of my life. Next question is, have I been to Peru? And the answer is yes, I've been to Peru twice. Once when I was a child. I don't know actually how old I was, 12? I don't know, don't quote me on that. And then once when I was an adult, like 19 years old. So it has been a really, really long time since I've been to Peru. But yes, I have been twice. I've been to Machu Picchu. I have been to Lima, Machu Picchu, and Jauja. Next question is about my piano, if I play the piano. And the answer is yes, I do. I have been playing since I was like 6. So I have this piano behind me, which is where the question was sparked from. I haven't been playing in the last couple of years, to be honest, because I need to tune this piano. It's pretty bad, and I just have not had the funds to do that. It's quite expensive to tune a piano. It could be like $200 probably, and I just haven't had that. I wonder why. You look at all this yarn, but I just haven't really had that extra laying around to be able to do it, and it hasn't been a huge priority. I would really, really like to tune it so that I can play it. Okay, this is the last question. Where would I live if not California? This is a really hard question because I feel like I absolutely love California. If I had to pick somewhere else to live besides where I live, it would probably be Northern California. So this makes it really hard. Also, like I've mentioned, Mr. Cheek is really, really into hiking, and we love the mountains here. And so like we've thought about moving to like the Sierras or Northern California, but I can't imagine not living in California. But if I had to answer the question, okay, probably Oregon, near the coast of Northern California. Yeah, Oregon or Washington. But I do feel like it's gloomy out there. Like one of the things that I love about California is that even when it's cold, it's like the sun is always around the corner. Even if there's a week of gloominess, like the sun will come out. Okay, that was all of my questions. I am going to cast off this last swatch, and then we're going to block them and see where we're at and take some really great notes so that I am ready to cast on some of these projects. Okay, I just finished my last swatch. I now have 4 finished swatches that I'm going to go block and take final measurements for. It is the next evening and the sun is setting, but I did want to come on here and show you my finished swatches. This is my Roma cardigan swatch. This is my Traveler's Shell swatch. This is my Sophisticable swatch. This is my Traveler's Hoodie swatch. And lastly, this is my Broom swatch. Thank you so much for watching this extra chatty swatch party questions and answers video, and I really enjoyed making it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!